This is Yarrow Kubrin. High at 9 News. Good morning, Monday, September 30th. Hot off the press. The article I'm covering is, again, hyper-local back here in the Bay. And without further ado, from SF Gate and Lester Black, Bay Area dispensary called The Most Important on Earth faces financial collapse, by Lester Black. Oakland's pioneering Harborside Cannabis Dispensary is probably the most influential cannabis dispensary in America. Founded in 2006, it went on to become the world's largest dispensary, spawn its own reality show, be defended by members of Congress before weed was legal, and eventually pave the way for marijuana legalization. But on Friday, Harborside is broke. The dispensary has gone from a poster child of cannabis reform to another example of the deep financial woes of the California cannabis industry. Harborside's parent company, State House Holding, has over $100 million in debt, nearly as much as its total assets. One of the company's lenders asked a California judge on Thursday to place the company into receivership, according to Green Market Report. Receivership involves a court-appointed manager selling off a company's assets after it can't pay back its creditors. Other major players have also fallen victim to the high debt problems of the state's troubled cannabis market, like the retail chain MedMen, once valued at over $1 billion, and massive pot distributor Herbal, which also faced financial collapse. In addition to the Harborside chain of dispensaries, State House Holdings owns companies across the cannabis supply chain, including cannabis greenhouses, manufacturing facilities, and product brands. While the future is uncertain for the Harborside dispensary, both the San Francisco and Oakland retail locations were still open as of Friday morning. The company did not immediately return an SF Gate request for comment. Harborside was founded in 2006 alongside an industrial stretch of coastline in Oakland and quickly became a pioneer in California's fledgling medical marijuana industry. Harborside was the first retailer to require safety testing for all its products, establishing quality assurance standards that are now required by law in nearly every state with legal cannabis. Dispensary co-founder Steve D'Angelo openly conducted his business in ways that attracted widespread attention. Debbie Goldsberry, the founder of Berkeley Patients Group, which opened in 1999 and is considered the longest continually operating cannabis dispensary in the country, told SF Gate Friday that Harborside was, quote, the most important dispensary on earth and inspired an entire generation of cannabis activists.
Oh, God.
D'Angelo was a force to be reckoned with, a very intelligent person, an extremely charming personality. People wanted to know what he was doing, Goldberry said. D'Angelo and his brother Andrew, along with co-founder Dress Wedding, ran the dispensary together, but were pushed out of the company after it merged into State House Holdings. They were not immediately available for comment on Friday. Harborside was one of the most prominent symbols of California cannabis industry during the 2010s. During a period of intense legal turmoil, federal authorities under the Obama administration increased enforcement of federal cannabis prohibition, despite growing public support for the medical marijuana access organizations like Harborside were providing at the time. Harborside was famously sued by federal agents in 2012, who called the business a marijuana superstore and claimed it was violating federal tax laws. Members of Congress came out in support of the dispensary, and the feds eventually dropped their case 4 years later. Goldsberry, who was running a dispensary in Oakland at the time, said the federal agents came after D'Angelo specifically because he was so bravely standing up for medical marijuana. He had inspired everyone who came after him. He was huge. That's why the tax agencies came so hard after him, Goldsberry said. So, really not that hard to pick some not so great news coming out of the largest cannabis economy here in the country, California. And I do think Harborside is iconic and may not represent the health of the industry in California overall, but if you borrow $100 million and you got $100 million in assets, that means you are not in a good place. Not at all.
No.
Yarrow Kubrin, High at 9 News. What do you think, Jason?
I have some questions about this. I'm a little bit confused. Because
not a new thing for you, my friend, but welcome to my side of the aisle.
No, I'm confused on this story, Yarrow. So, Harborside did a deal with Urban Leaf and with Loud Pack, and they merged to create State House. Okay, so now why if I'm wondering about the structure of that deal right now, because if this was the case, it would read, one of the larger retail chains in California goes into receivership, as opposed to just focusing on Harborside, because there were way more stores of Urban Leafs throughout California than ever a Harborside. They only got up to 2.
So they're not in receivership yet, is my understanding from the article. And I think Harborside just has a much longer lineage and a more prestigious pedigree. And so that's probably why Mr. Black chose to highlight this portion of
I don't know. I think
I
think he's just trying to just highlight Bay Area shit since he's from the Bay Area. That would be my guess.
Well, that's fine. I mean, like, what he should be highlighting is the fact that one of the best ways, one of the only good ways to make money right now in cannabis is through these weird debt plays, right? So all of a sudden, it's not lost on me that D'Angelo Brothers left, State Holdings came in, merged everything, all this new debt was created, and now to perfect the debt, we're going to probably bring in a receiver, and we're going to kick all this shit back. So what we're fucking is shareholders, fucking those people, but State House and the powers that be there are going to make money off the fact that they're going to roll up shop, figure everything out, and liquidate all their debt.
Interesting play there, Jenny Beth. And let me correct myself. I see Nick tried to correct me. He was Nick was a buyer over at Harborside for a number of years. Nick Bradley in the chat, he says they actually had 4 stores that were Harborside stores, and so, well, good for them. They have 4 stores.
They also
for one, I'm glad to see them having the same thing happen to them that they did to so many people and being financially ruined. D'Angelo is a vampire, and I saw him put 1 million farmers out of business by undercutting them on the price, which he then turned around and sold as top quality product, refusing to pay people with an abundance of excuses. Harborside was the beginning of the end of anything good in the legal weed game. And
snitching on his
love
competition.
To see them go and won't miss their
that has happened. That has happened. That's
well, snitching on his competition, refusing to admit to some of the farmers that were delivering medical product, his medical dispensary. He would not claim that he knew anything about that. And people went to prison.
That's true.
Because he refused to step up and say, yes, this is an order coming to my medical shop.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I don't feel bad for you at all. And I don't like your pigtails.
So again,
Spark is next.
Harborside, it was co-founded by D'Angelo. D'Angelo is
they're not
one
involved in this.
Who likes the spotlight. Dress wedding was
wedding dress, bro. Wedding dress.
Dress wedding, and he was far less into the spotlight. So Steve sort of became what most people associate with the founder team, but it was far more than D'Angelo and his brother. The challenge, and I don't think, when Harborside and there was this amalgamation that created State House Holdings, each of those companies brought with them opportunity, income, and debt. And so the $100 million debt, it's not like State House didn't just put all this together, leverage it to the hilt, and all of a sudden they're just going to sort of sell it off for parts. A lot of these companies already came with existing debt. The idea at that point was that there was an economy of scale, bigger was better. They would control the supply chain, but Harborside already had some pretty substantial debt involved with it.
Totally fine. Still, new debt was created. It's still like the way it played out is not confusing here, right? So I don't know. I just think that it's interesting to see what has been done to other people by them being done to them, and that sucks.
Fair. So one of the first stores to institute slotting fees. You had to pay to get on their shelves.
I do remember that.
You basically have a special edition episode, an hour long, of like fuck Harborside.
Yeah, literally.
There's so much they've done.
I don't think it should necessarily be directed towards Harborside. I think it would be more of, towards Steve more than it would be towards Harborside.
We don't always agree.
Interesting. All right. That's an interesting perspective you have there, Mathieu St. Germain. But on that, we're going to roll into our final commercial, and we're going to be right back.